So I've invested over 25 grand into coaches and mentors over the years to be able to move faster than 90% of people my age. And the lesson that every single mentor has just hammered home has been the importance of acting fast and failing forward. If you've ever been into, any sort of program that you paid for, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's the people who join the calls with questions prepared, they ask their questions, they get the answers, and then they execute. Those are the ones who just blow up the wins channel and consistently progress forward. Then there's the peasants of the entrepreneurship space, the ones who spend weeks, sometimes months, on the most basic setbacks, like not knowing how to use Go High Level when they could just go get the information on YouTube and then get back in the game in like 5 minutes. But instead, these people stay stuck thinking they know better than everyone else, and a lot of times they do, but they never act on it, and that's what keeps them stuck. The only difference between the peasants and the progressors is their ability to stop thinking 10 steps ahead and just relentlessly focus on the task that's in front of them that they know they need to do. So in this video, I'll break down how you can get out of your own head and start making real progress in the business. That way you can move 10 times faster than the average person. So the first thing I want to talk about is a concept called retard maxing. Okay, so basically on the curve here, you've got three different types of people. Okay, so all the way on the left, you've got the retards. Okay, these are the people who generally have a pretty low IQ and they're just dumb, right? There's not a whole lot going on up here, but a lot of times these are the people who actually take action because they just turn off their brain and they do it without overthinking it. Okay, then all the way on the right, you've got the smart people, basically the Asians. Okay, these people are generally pretty smart. They have a higher IQ. A lot of times they have more time in the game, more experience, and they're just, overall smarter people. Okay, so these two people, funny enough, generally move at a very similar rate, right? The people who just turn off their brain, do what's required, take the necessary action, they generally get the same results as the people who are very smart. Okay, now where most people fall under is being right here in the middle. Okay, not a super low IQ, but also nothing crazy, right? They're just in the middle. But this is what keeps most people stuck. You see, these people are generally overthinkers. So these are the people who, they're not like completely retarded. They have like a medium IQ, but these people generally stay stuck, okay? Because they know more than the complete retard. So they're constantly consuming all the new information. They're watching YouTube videos, they're reading books, and on paper they know a lot more, but these people, they do not act, right? They don't take action, and instead they're just overthinking, and ultimately they're procrastinating. Okay, so generally what their day looks like is something like this. So you've got the 80% of tasks that just don't need to get done, right? And the difference between the people who make progress and take action and achieve their goals is that those people, they focus on the 20% of tasks that actually move the needle forward. This can be things like recording content, recording ads, VSLs, stuff like that. And then there's the 80% of tasks. There's the changing your profile picture, responding to comments, just all these low leverage tasks that they feel like they're productive, maybe consuming content, like watching all these educational videos, but this 80% of things, these tasks, they don't actually move the needle forward. Okay, and what ends up happening is the retarded people, the people who just turn off their brain and do it, they understand they just have to do the hard work. So they just execute on this 20%. They make progress, and that's how they ended up. That's how you see a lot of these retards. You've got these kids with the what I'm talking about, the haircut, the polo shirts, the white pants, like living in Dubai. A lot of these people, they're just pretty dumb, but they found a way to make loads of money, and that's just because they do the necessary work. And then there's the people who they think they're smarter than everyone, but they're always consuming content. They're not actually trading. They're not actually taking action. They're just focusing on this 80% of tasks that don't actually move the needle forward. Okay, and this is honestly what kept me from posting content for so long. I was just so stuck in my own head, and honestly it came from a place of like being judged. Like I had a high enough ego that I wasn't actually willing to take the necessary action and put content out there that, to be honest, I wasn't happy with. But a mindset shift that has served me recently has just been understanding it's action that gets rewarded. Okay, just doing so much volume that it's insane not to get results. So instead of watching all the videos on how to create a good hook, how to communicate better, how to have a perfect setup, instead I'm just taking action, doing it imperfectly, But because of that, I've now adopted a mindset of like, okay, create 50 videos, and then maybe the 51st video will be half decent. But if I tried to just get it perfect on the first try, which I was stuck doing for a while, I wasn't doing anything. And because of that, I wasn't getting enough reps. I wasn't failing. I wasn't able to get feedback on what I'd done, and I wasn't able to progress. Okay. And that's what keeps a lot of people stuck. They're right in the middle, right? They're always just looking for the next, new opportunity. They're trying to consume all the content, but they're not actually taking action on this 20%. And the 20% is generally harder work. A lot of times it's not fun to record content. It's not fun to script out new ads, or, a lot of these higher leverage tasks, they're not fun. It's a lot more fun to just post up and watch some YouTube content or scroll reels to get inspiration, but these things don't actually move the needle forward. Okay. So a lot of the time, this is how I like to look at it. So basically, you got I call it the progress cycle. So this is how I've started acting to try and get out of that middle ground, where instead of, just overthinking and not taking action, this is kind of how I look at it. So there becomes a point where, yes, you do need new information to be able to get better, right? However, it becomes a problem when you're just gathering information, you're just, learning all these new strategies, but you're not actually implementing it. So a good framework that I've been following recently is just the fact of like collecting the info. So like putting your head up, looking for the YouTube content, investing into coaches and mentors to get the new information. But then what a lot of people miss is just putting your head down and executing, okay? Taking the action, recording the content, doing those harder tasks and actually executing them, right? Or if you go the other way and you just execute and you're just completely retarded, a lot of times you're still going to make better progress because you're just taking action, you're seeing it's not working, you adjust accordingly, and you keep taking action. But I found it's a good cycle, right? You collect the information, you put your head down, you execute, then you realize, okay, I messed up here, I can change that. You give yourself feedback, and then you just keep repeating the cycle. So put your head up, consume the right content, get the right information, put your head down, and just execute. So this has served me really well. It's just, not getting trapped on one side. And most people, those people in the middle, they tend to fall in this category where they're just collecting information. They know a lot more than the retard who just, is generally making more progress than them. The only difference is these people act, right? They actually execute and they take the necessary action. Okay. I'll give the analogy of like, creating YouTube content, because this has been relevant to my situation recently. And that's just the fact of like trying to get it right on the first try. Like, let's say this is you're trying to get, from point A here to point B, right? What happens a lot of times is, you just try to get it perfect. You try to have all the stars aligned before you make this jump. But to be honest, it never happens. It's a long jump to get from point A to point B. So instead, adopting the mindset of like just making small jumps to kind of build this bridge over time, and eventually, after taking action consistently over a long period of time, that's when you actually start seeing real progress. But it's not just this one like, record one video and it's done and it's perfect. It's lots of little videos, just chipping away at it, improving it, a little bit each time. And over time, that consistent effort is going to compound, and that's where you start seeing real results. And that's when you get from point A to point B. But this doesn't happen overnight. And to be honest, this kept me stuck for so long, is like just trying to get it perfect on the first try. But honestly, that tends to lead to like a downward spiral. And it, a lot of times you get caught in like a rut because you just, you keep failing at it, trying to make the long jump all the way to point B, when it just generally is impossible, right? It's just these little actions, and the brain rewards, wins, right? So if you wake up, that's why they talk about like making your bed. It's not that important, but like if that's the first thing you do, it's a little win that you can stack, and then you complete a task. Maybe you go to the gym, that's another win, and it just compounds, right? You get that feeling of like forward momentum, right? And you can't get that when you're just trying to get it right on the first try, because it's just nothing's ever perfect, right? It's just lots of consistent little actions, little wins that compound over time. So tangibly, something that I've found is just having a clear established goal. So if a lot of the people watching this are like agency owners or coaches, so let's say you're trying to get 5 clients by the end of the month. Okay, that's a very clear, tangible goal, and now you can reverse engineer, okay, what are the actionable tasks that I can complete to get me there. So maybe that's recording ads, maybe that's recording a new VSL, these specific 20% of tasks that actually move the needle forward, and then just shortening the timelines. So instead of, giving yourself a whole month to knock this out, say, okay, I'm going to have this VSL recorded on Friday, right? And hold yourself to it. So just shortening the timelines so you can move faster and kind of narrow it down to the tasks that actually move the needle forward. Because if you're spending most of your day on these, the 80%, you're not going to have time for the 20% that actually moves the needle forward. And then you get caught in this like downward spiral where you're just not really doing anything throughout the day that actually gives you that feeling of, forward momentum, that progression that you need. And you kind of just, plummet and fall into a rut because you're not actually making progress. So establish a clear goal, break it down into what you actually need to do that's going to move the needle forward, and then shorten the timeline. So you'd be surprised if you actually just cut out all these things that are distracting you and all these little tasks that don't move the needle forward, and you just focus on the small amount of tasks that actually, get you closer towards your goal. You'd be surprised how much, faster you can actually achieve those goals. And that's just, goes back to the first analogy, like these retards, the people who have low IQ, they've just boiled it down to what actions do they need to take to get the specific result that they want. So the key point I'm really trying to get across is you don't need more information to start. The retards and the people who have a higher IQ, those people, they're both progressing, right? They've just turned off their brain, narrowed it down to the key tasks that they have to work on, and they execute, right? So don't get stuck in that middle ground where you have the information, but you're not acting on it because, it's hard, right? There's a lot of work that if it was easy for everyone to do it, no one would actually do it. And there's no right answer, right? A lot of times, you get caught in this, trap of like trying to get it perfect or, thinking there's only one way to do it. But it's not like we're in school where there's like a right answer and a wrong answer. A lot of times it's just slowly chipping away at the goal and working on, again, those tasks that actually get you closer. So hopefully you took some sort of value from that. That's kind of just me ranting for the past 10 minutes. But at the end of the day, you don't need more information. You just have to take action and do the work. So hopefully that was helpful. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.